So that's an old scar. I don't know if you can see it. I just want you to know where I'm coming from on this. So the topic is suicide these days, it seems. Some people taking blame, other people making excuses. Well, there is no excuse for suicide. Well, maybe if you're terminally ill and you have gone past the point where there's any hope at all, and you're in so much pain that you have to relieve the pain, and it takes so much to relieve the pain that you die, which is called hospice around here. But there's no other excuse for it. What suicide does to the people left is it makes them suicidal. My roommate's grandfather killed himself. My roommate and his cousin both got suicidal. His other two cousins got whacked out. One was an alcoholic, one ate. A friend of mine's kid committed suicide. So his wife got the bright idea that she should commit suicide to be with her son. Now, there is no excuse, and it is selfish. Look it up. Search suicide prevention or how to talk to a potential suicide, and you will find suicide is a selfish act. It is the person only thinking of themselves. Now, for the people trying to take blame because they didn't recognize it, this scar is about 30 years old. And it was really spur of the moment. Selfish me wanted to get back at my mother and didn't bother thinking what me and a puddle of blood would do to my sister. Luckily, I wised up before I cut too far and too deep. Not that my mother didn't deserve it, because she did, but my sister didn't. Shortly after that, it wasn't as of a direct approach, but I was doing alcohol and drugs, and then walking around in a bad part of town late at night, trying to get into a fight where I would get killed and possibly get to kill someone else. Now, the girl this was over noticed something was up and asked me about it, and I told her no, everything was A-okay. And I went about my business trying to get myself killed. Most recently, when I had the panic and agoraphobia really bad, the Wellbutrin the doctors tried gave me a little voice in my head telling me to kill myself, telling me it was the only way out. I got right on the phone, called up my roommate, told him to take the day off and come home and get my guns away from me, because it was too easy to put a barrel in my mouth and blow my brains out. I didn't want to do it, but when you got a voice in your head telling you to do it, it's kind of freaky. I wanted help. I got help. And for people making excuses for the suicide, there is no excuse. By making excuses and then posting the video into the general population of the internet, you've got kids that are going to go around searching suicide on YouTube to try to find a suicide video. They're going to find the people making excuses for the suicide, finding the suicide, getting all the love, and they're going to decide that it's okay to do. Now, at my friend's kid's funeral, they had counselors at the funeral. Some kid sees the mother crying, wants to get back at their mother like I did, and they decide, oh, suicide's a good way. Some kid feels unloved, seeing all the love getting poured out at the funeral, decides, oh, suicide's what I should do. And no, it is not. Stop making excuses. I know you like the guy, but he killed himself. He was only thinking of himself. What he did hurt his loved ones. I'm almost sure of that. And I'm almost sure that eventually his loved ones are going to come to the conclusion that it was a very selfish act. They'll still love him, but they will recognize what he did and why he did it. He had no consideration for them. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Now, Fab may not have known what he was talking about with his get a grip. But it seems to me a lot of other people don't know what they're talking about, making excuses for suicides. I've been there. I pulled the razor blade across my wrist. There is no excuse for it. You get on the phone, you call a friend, you call a hotline. Help is available. And no matter how bad you think it is, it's not. I've been there with the panic, and it's not as bad as it seems at the time. I think back between my 20s and 40s, and I think it's a relatively panic-free time. But when I start focusing on certain times, I realize that it wasn't. It seems like that now. Things get better, things get worse. If you make excuses for people saying things were just so bad they couldn't deal with it anymore, everybody has those times. Everybody gets over those times. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. For all I know, tomorrow I'll wake up, I won't have an ounce of panic. I'll be able to go out fishing and hunting whenever I want, go anywhere I want. I have my doubts, but that's part of the panic. That's part of what keeps it going. And that reminds me of something else. Everybody seems to be equating suicide and depression, and that is not how it is. 20% of panic disorder people attempt suicide. There are many reasons people kill themselves. My friend's kid was depressed, but it sure wasn't because a girl broke up with him, but it sure wasn't clinical depression. He hadn't existed with it that long. He hears that depression means suicide. He thinks it's the easy way out, and maybe it'll bring her back. Yeah, it'll bring her back for 2 or 3 weeks while she mourns his death, maybe blames herself, but after that she's forgotten about him and she's probably married by now. Where's he? In a grave. As far as asking for help over YouTube, as a last resort, maybe. And I mean as that behind calling the local suicide prevention hotline. I know everybody thinks YouTube is all these great friendships and all that. But it's the internet, people. It is not interaction. If you call the local suicide prevention hotline and you need someone there in person like I did this last time, you'll get it. Over YouTube, you're not getting it. And there were There's nothing somebody could have said to me to stop me. Somebody had to be there in person. You may notice I'm a little bit hot under the collar about this topic. And you might wonder why somebody who's tried to commit suicide before and had suicidal thoughts would be so hot under the collar. And it's because if I wasn't this way, I would have done it last time. So stop making excuses for people so they can go do it. Unless you just want people to kill themselves. Dad may have been out of line, talking about stuff he doesn't know about. Putting that up randomly for anybody to find. But telling suicidal people, oh, that's okay if you kill yourself, we'll still love you. Yeah, that's just as bad. No, I ain't gonna love you if you kill yourself. I'm gonna think you were a selfish idiot. It's what I would be if I killed myself. And as long as I think that, I'll get on the phone before I get on the gun.